Big week. Starter sit for the AFC home games, plus Cincinnati and Dallas, so we could balance the episodes a little bit more. Welcome to the show, Fantasy Football Today on Thursday morning. Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg, Heath Cummings. This is huge. You cannot start 0-2. If you start 0-2, just quit the league, guys. It's over.
That's not true at all.
That's
not
true
at all. No, you can start 0-3 and make the playoffs. If you start 0-4, you should keep playing and listen to us every day. I don't know what you're trying to do here, Adam.
First league I ever won, I started 0-3. So, and that was with a 17-game season.
That was last year, right?
No, it was freshman year of college. It was 2002. Clinton Portis, I believe.
Did you draft out of the Forerunner?
No, I'm gonna guess I did not. But it's not over. But let's get a win. Let's go 2-0, or let's get to 1-1. Welcome. We got. These shows are a marathon, so I'm going to get right to it. We're going to talk about players we love, players to avoid. Let me tell you the games that we are discussing today. Cincinnati-Dallas, Colts-Jaguars, Cardinals-Raiders, Dolphins-Ravens, Jets-Browns, Houston at Denver, New England at Pittsburgh, and the last game we do will be kind of a marquee game, but an easy one in terms of starter sit, more or less, Tennessee and Buffalo. All right, Jamie, players you love this week. Who's our start of the week?
Matthew Stafford. Speaking of not going 0-2, Sean McVay has never been 2 games under 500. And so I think Matthew Stafford will bounce back and have a big game against the Falcons. We saw in the fourth quarter, they allowed over 200 passing yards and 2 touchdowns to Jameis Winston in the Saints' comeback effort. I don't buy this defense being as good as it was in the first 3 quarters. I think we'll see a Stafford with a little extra time since the game was on Thursday, correct some of his mistakes. Allen Robinson will correct some of his mistakes. I think it's going to be a big Rams victory at home.
Would you start Stafford over?
He's a top 5 quarterback for me, so I would start him over Brady. I would start him over Kyler. I would start him over Trubisky. I would start him over a lot of quarterbacks.
Trubisky. Okay, I'll avoid controversy and just let that one stand. I won't even make you argue that. Heath, who you love this week?
I guess we love the Rams because I was going to say Darrell Henderson. I believe the last I checked, the Rams had the highest implied total on the Sunday slate, at least. I don't think it's higher than what the Chiefs are tonight, but definitely very close to 30 points. I don't think Cam Akers is getting his job back here. As long as Darrell Henderson stays healthy, I expect him to see 16-plus touches and be a mid-range to high-end number 2 running back.
Okay, you've got him over week 1 studs like A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Cordarrelle Patterson. And you also have them over players like James Conner and Javonte Williams, but you can start, both of those guys. You could start those guys and Darrell Henderson, but you have Darrell Henderson as a top 12 running back. So does Dave in PPR. Jamie has him 18th. Okay, how about players we're avoiding, Heath? Who would you sit this week?
Well, hopefully not DeAndre Swift, but I do think if you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire as your 3rd running back, you might have to, depending on what practice reports today. I would say that I don't know why you ever ask me these first. I never have a good answer.
Hey, who are you avoiding?
I would say all Cowboys not named Dalton Schultz.
All right. We should talk about that's the first game we're going to talk about. So it's up against the Bengals. What do you think they're going to go more run heavy, or do you think they're just going to keep airing it out? Do they run the offense through Zeke now? Is he the man?
I would imagine they're going to try. I mean, are you going to rely on Cooper Rush with that offensive line?
I just last year, he started 1 game, he threw 40 passes. 2 years ago, Andy Dalton started 9 games, he averaged 36 passes. I think we're going to see 35 to 40 pass attempts.
So
I think by the end of the game we might, yeah. But I think the game plan is going to be lean on Zeke as much as you can.
They definitely could be try to catch up here. I mean, the Bengals are probably good, even though they lost last week.
They lost last week. I mean, they had 5 turnovers. Joe Burrow was a mess in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, he was. So I was just being sarcastic. They're good. Where do you have CeeDee Lamb this week, guys?
Outside my top 24. Still top 30 receiver, but not a must-start receiver in a 2-receiver league.
Just barely inside my top 20. I've changed on that since the beginning of the week, but I mostly just think he's going to get 10 targets. I'm going to start a guy with 10 targets, even if it's a bad quarterback.
Okay, and yeah, he did throw for over 300 yards in that game. I watched almost every throw. It's not very good. He had a great throw to Cedric Wilson on a 73 or a 76-yard touchdown catch. It really boosted his numbers.
You're talking about the game last year we started for Dak on Monday night against the Vikings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went back and watched it last night, and very off target and 2 terrible interceptions. And you looked inexperienced for sure. But one thing he did do, Cooper Rush, was he threw the ball downfield a lot. His air yards were very, very high. So we can get into that a little bit later. Heath, you got a player to avoid yet?
It's Travis Etienne. And I was leaning this way before the comment yesterday, and maybe it didn't mean anything at all. Maybe it was just praise for James Robinson. But after all of the minor and major mistakes Etienne made in week 1, they asked Doug Peterson, what did you learn in week 1? And he said how important James Robinson is. I don't think James Robinson is going to play less than 51% of the snaps. I would be surprised if he played fewer than 60% of the snaps. And so I do think we see a small decrease from Etienne. Maybe he'll make one big play and score. That's a possibility. If you need him as a flex, I understand that. But I also think there's a possibility that he gets like 4 carries and 3 catches in this game.
Do we get an update on Shaquille Leonard yet?
Practiced in full, but he also did that last week at this time and did not end up playing.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Do you think that look, the last 3 seasons now, there have been 4 games that they've played without Shaquille Leonard, and their run defense has held up in all 4 of those games. Just in terms of per carry by running backs. The run defense has been good even without Leonard. Do you think Robinson is a start this week, Heath? If Etienne's a sit, is Robinson a start?
I don't love Robinson, but I would definitely prefer to start Robinson over Etienne. This Jacksonville team has given Indianapolis all kinds of troubles over the last couple of years, and I don't really believe that's going to continue. And I think maybe when that trend ends, it ends in a painful way for the Jaguars.
Okay, so what about the game you love? You gave me players you love. You gave me players to avoid. Which game are you circling this week? And Jamie, you should know me well enough by now to know my answer to this question. Which game do you think I'm circling this week?
You are circling, I would hope it's Giants-Panthers.
Whatever.
But you are probably circling for the slate. I would say it's Vikings-Eagles. Should be.
Dolphins-Ravens.
Oh.
Really excited for this game. Want to see if the Dolphins are for real. And they really blitzed the hell out of Lamar Jackson last year. Did a great job against him on that Thursday night game. Can't wait for this game. I don't know if you guys have a game that you're just itching to see.
For me, it's Vikings-Eagles because I think that could be the best team in the NFC. Would not surprise me if that's the case, based on what their off seasons have been, and certainly for the Vikings, the way they looked in Week 1. I hope the Eagles defense, maybe not this week, but shows up a little bit better. And I say that only because from a fantasy perspective, I don't want to see the Vikings struggle. But that one to me is I wish Keenan Allen was playing tonight because that game would be amazing and still should be amazing. But those 2 games to me are going to be just awesome.
And the two Monday night games are going on at the same time. 7:15 Titans-Bills, 8:30 Vikings-Eagles. So Monday is going to be a very fun night. We have a live stream today at 2 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. Join us. We're answering your starter sit questions. 2 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. We'll see you there. We're also on TikTok. So TikTok it up and follow us. I don't really know I don't have TikTok, but follow us on TikTok.
TikTok it up.
Tick us on TikTok. Talk us. I don't know.
Wasn't that a song, TikTok, You Don't Stop?
TikTok on the clock, but
no,
the party
that's not the song.
That's Kesha. TikTok, you don't stop. Yeah, that's Color Me Bad. Ooh, okay.
Go get your guitar.
I once walked out to that song, I Want to Sex You Up, at a date auction, and nobody bid on me.
That's my favorite story ever.
Yeah, that was a terrible story, but that is 100% true. But nobody bid on any of us. It was a stupid event. Injuries, news, and notes. At quarterback, Joe Flacco will start for the Jets. Nick Sirianni said this about Jalen Hurts. He said he had complete control of what was going on, and he saw the field perfectly in week 1. So that is awesome. And Joe Burrow talked about how the Bengals saw a lot of too high safety looks against the Steelers, a lot of cover 2 to try to keep Cincinnati from making big plays. He expects to see that a lot, and it led to a lot of checking down. So won't jump to any conclusions now, but you saw 7 catches for Joe Mixon. You wonder if there's going to be more of that this year.
The Steelers did to them what teams did to the Chiefs and Bills last year?
Yeah, but yes, exactly. And Burrow said he expects to see that all season, basically. So let's go to running back news. Big news here. J.K. Dobbins practiced in full. Jamie, what do you think?
I think you should probably be a little bit cautious because it's a good Miami defense, good Miami run defense. So I would probably still use him, but use him as a flex. But I don't think he's a must start in his first game. But it's very encouraging that he's expected to play this week, and hopefully he does great things.
I don't want to start him. It's just going to be one of those, please don't Chris Godwin, please don't Chris Godwin, please don't Chris Godwin, please don't Chris Godwin. If he gets through this week healthy, then he's a full go moving forward, and I'm very excited.
Najee Harris was limited in practice. So Heath, you were the low guy, I think, talking about it yesterday. Where you have Najee ranked?
If it wasn't for the fact that he finished as the number 8 running back on a per game basis last year, he might have been my player to avoid. I'm just scared of the possibility of him leaving the game early, and the possibility of him averaging 2 yards per carry again, and the possibility of him seeing 3 targets.
Is he top 24 guy for you?
Very, very close. He might be. I think he's 26 or 27.
Okay. Jaylen Warren is 33% rostered.
I do think, again, another guy that if he's limited again today, I'm starting Clyde over him.
Najee? Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see. Jeff Wilson is the number 1 most added player. Jaylen Warren is top 10. Man, Taysom Hill is the number 3 most added player. He is up from 10% to 51%.
I think he's also the number 3 tight end in CBS fantasy scoring.
Probably. This is a mistake, right? I don't want to speak out of turn here, but having Taysom Hill in 51% of leagues, sorry. That means people are going to be starting him. Crazy?
I mean, I guess if you are counting on him rushing for a touchdown every week or doing something every week, where he's going to find the end zone, because he's not going to get enough touches.
No.
Presumably. But the one thing that's interesting clearly is Jameis has a back injury. And what will the Saints do if he's out? Will it be Andy Dalton, which you would think? Or would it be Taysom Hill again?
I think there are people who are getting too excited and think he's just going to be a plug-and-play top 10 tight end all year. But I also don't think he's very much different from Dawson Knox or Cole Kmet or the low-end start. Like, you're hoping those guys get you 50 yards and a touchdown. And Taysom Hill's going to get 5 or 6 touches probably, and you hope that he gets into the end zone or gets 50 yards.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. All right, Damian Williams missed practice for Atlanta. They're at the Rams this week. DeAndre Swift, Heath alluded to this. DeAndre Swift missed practice with an ankle injury, but Swift says he's not concerned about it. They have Washington this week. Kyle Shanahan said the 49ers will go with the hot hand at running back. Heath, do you think we should be – Jeff Wilson is now 85% rostered. Should we be picking up a different 49ers running back?
I think all of the 49ers running backs should be rostered. Always. Everyone with an SF and an RB next to their name should be on a roster just in case they turn into a pot of gold. And I'd be pretty concerned about – I'm pretty concerned about starting Jeff Wilson this week.
But you say that, though, we don't have unlimited bench spots. It's not like everybody can just go pick up as many people as they want to, unless you're Dave. So it's just a matter of how many leagues can you roster Davis Price and Jordan Mason? And, it's tough.
Yeah. But if you missed out on Jeff Wilson, you have an empty roster spot. Would you spend it on Mason or TDP?
I would probably go Davis Price, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mason.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised with Marlon Mack in 3 weeks. I mean, it's just that's what San Francisco is.
They signed Marlon Mack off someone else's practice squad, right?
No, he was released off the Texans.
He was not on the practice squad.
Right. First, the Texans brought him back on their practice squad, and then prior to week 1, they cut him.
Okay. Good.
A wide receiver. Oh, you good, Heath?
No, I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure that Marlon Mack didn't have to be on the active roster.
Okay, wide receiver news. Keenan Allen is out tonight. T. Higgins was limited in practice. He's making good progress here. What do you do if you have Josh Palmer, if you have MVS, if you have, I guess, Juju is a higher end player? But any Thursday night guy, what do you do compared to T. Higgins?
I think you'll find out again, what he does. Usually when a guy's in the concussion protocol and they end up practicing on Wednesday, whatever capacity, I think they have to list them as limited if they're still in the protocol. So he's trending in the right direction. So if you have a fallback option, I would prefer T. Higgins over Palmer. I'd prefer T. Higgins over MVS. I would probably just start Juju because I think there's not that far of a difference between the two of them right now. But I think if you can wait it out, like if there's a Jarvis Landry, if there's a Sterling Shepard, if there's a Curtis Samuel, you want to just pivot to one of those guys. I think there's probably a similar, range of outcomes for all those second-tier wide receivers.
Okay. More wide receiver news. Michael Gallup unlikely to play this week. Allen Lazard was limited in practice Sunday night against the Bears. Let's hope we see Lazard out there. Sean McVay says he needs to get Allen Robinson more involved. When Sean McVay says something like that, you should listen.
You hear that sound?
Oh, yeah.
What's that sound?
It's squeaky.
Oh, that's it. That's right.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel. Allen Robinson or Juju Smith-Schuster?
Robinson for me, but it's close.
Yeah, I think I have Robinson one spot. Like it's very, very close. They're both in the mid-20s. Yes, Robinson.
So you'd start Robinson over Josh Palmer.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Rondale Moore missed practice. The Bucs are beat up. Russell Gage and Julio Jones missed practice. Mike Evans was limited with a seemingly minor calf injury, and obviously Chris Godwin is out. We expect Julio Jones to play, right, as of now?
I would think so. This was something that you got a lot of in Tennessee, him not practicing. And I think it became a problem for him. I hope it's not going to be the case with the Bucs.
Yeah.
He may be legitimately hurt, but he did practice. Everybody was raving about his practice reports during training camp. So hopefully that's it's just something minor that he's dealing with.
Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce is in the concussion protocol, and Giants wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson is day-to-day, but he, according to one report I read, does not appear likely to play. Wan'Dale Robinson. Tight end George Kittle missed practice. So, you got to plan to be without George Kittle this week, and hopefully he gets back out there today. Offensive line news. Both Dolphins offensive tackles missed practice on Wednesday, and both Packers offensive tackles are going to be questionable for Sunday. So that stinks. The Packers really missed their tackles in week one. The Dolphins, they didn't run the ball well last week, and hopefully they will have Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson, I believe, their right tackle for week 2. Detroit put guard Hala Vaitai on IR. He's out indefinitely after back surgery. And Dallas left guard Connor McGovern is out 2 to 4 weeks. Coach about Shaq Leonard, star linebacker for the Colts. He practiced in full, but he did that last week and didn't play. We're hoping he's back soon. J.C. Jackson, star cornerback for the Chargers. He'll be a game-time decision tonight. Harrison Butker's out. Get a replacement. Jaron Kearse. This is a pretty big news, I think. Jaron Kearse, safety for the Cowboys. Pretty good player for them. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. And Justin Simmons, this is big, one of the best safeties in the game for the Broncos. He is on IR. He's out at least 4 weeks. They have Houston this week. Time for one question for each game. 8 games we're going to be covering today. Cincinnati at Dallas. Who is the best Cowboys player in this game?
Best or safest?
Best.
Best is CeeDee Lamb. Safest is Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, best is CeeDee Lamb. Best relative to position is Dalton Schultz.
Colts-Jaguars. I kind of already asked you this. I'll ask you it again. Are you starting a Jaguars running back in this game?
I would lean ETN in PPR. I would lean Robinson in the other formats. And I would think I have them both ranked in those respective formats as low-end starters / flex.
I'd prefer not to, but Robinson in both.
Arizona at Las Vegas. Starter sit Josh Jacobs.
I think you could start him. This Arizona defense is not very good right now. And so, he's not going to help you very much in the passing game, I don't think, based on what we saw last week. But maybe Brandon Bolden being out changes that a little bit. Or if he's out, Bolden's banged up. So I don't think it's like a slam dunk. You have to start Josh Jacobs, but he's ranked for me as a starter.
Loved the fact that Zamir White wasn't really a thing. So, yeah, I'll start him one more week.
You start Josh Jacobs over James Robinson?
I would.
Yes, over both Jaguars running backs.
And over Zeke, obviously.
Yep.
Yes. I would start him over David Montgomery, too.
Yeah, Arizona, it's so early, and they played the Chiefs. But they weren't a very good defense last year. The personnel isn't that great. I mean, they might be the matchup this year.
They could be bottom 10 for sure.
Yeah, they could really stink. They are a little.
I would,
and JJ Watt could play this week.
I would not be surprised if Cliff Kingsbury's fired during the season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miami at Baltimore. Who do you like better, Chase Edmonds or Rashad Bateman? Or you know what? I'll throw Dobbins in there since he practiced in full. Edmonds, Dobbins, Bateman. Who's the best start?
Edmonds for me. And if you're, looking at it, I obviously volume had a lot to do with it, but my goodness, the Jets running backs were just catching passes all over the place last week.
Yeah, Edmonds.
Yeah, I think that was something the Ravens struggled with last year too. I think they gave up something like the 8th most receiving yards per game to running backs, and it showed up in week 1. It's funny. Like, I'm really excited about that game. We got a ton of talent, but a little just kind of nervous about so many of the players in that game. How many confident starts are there? There's 3: Jackson, Hill, and Andrews. Is it Waddle a confident start?
I think you're starting both Dolphins receivers and Andrews, and that's probably it from a must-start standpoint.
Jack and Lamar.
Well, I'm saying the skill players. Yes, Lamar's the must-start.
All right, Jets at Cleveland. Who's the best flex option? Michael Carter, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, or Elijah Moore?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, who's the best flex option? I'll give you a lot of names. Michael Carter, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, or Elijah Moore?
Carter.
Oh, Kareem Hunt.
Carter for Heath, Kareem Hunt for Jamie. Okay. Are you guys, do you have the other running back second?
He's well on his way to making you shave your eyebrows.
What did he have? 4 catches?
That's right. That's all you got to do.
Carries? Yeah, I was going to bring this up later, but he had 15 touches, and they had the ball for almost 39 minutes. So I didn't know if that was encouraging.
He used that again this week.
Probably, yeah. All right, Houston at Denver. Are you concerned about Brandon Cooks?
No.
A little bit, but not to bench him though.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. Do you think he's gonna get shadowed? He played in the slot a pretty decent amount, unlike DK Metcalf, right? So DK Metcalf got shadowed by Pat Surtain. Surtain's the man, Sirman, and Cooks is a different receiver than Metcalf, but he played in the slot more than Metcalf did, so that's usually a good thing. You don't really get shadowed when you move into the slot. But if you told me he was going to get shadowed by Patrick Surtain, I'd say sit Brandon Cooks like 100%. But maybe you guys wouldn't. But do you think that's going to happen?
No.
I don't think it's going to be like what happened last week. Most of the time when you ask guys that shadow players in today's game what kind of receivers they like to play, they love the bigger physical guys because they're just easier to deal with. And I know that sounds funny, but you know where they are. Like they're easier targets. And so Cooks is not that type of guy, but it wouldn't surprise me if Surtain's on him more times than not. So take that into account. But I mean, you see where we have him ranked. If you're watching on YouTube, it was top 15 for all 3 of us. So you got to have really just a stacked receiving core to bench Brandon Cooks.
I think that one thing I noticed just looking at Cook's targets from last week is they were really creative with like designing ways to get the ball into his hands on wide receiver screens and stuff like that. So I don't think they know who their best offensive player is.
Yeah, he had 12 targets or 13 or something, and Burkhead had 8 or something, and nobody else had more than 3 or 4. It was just basically all Brandon Cooks and a little bit of Burkhead. Plus Justin Simmons being out certainly makes this an easier matchup. New England and Pittsburgh. Is there anyone that you love in this game? Anyone you love in the Patriots-Steelers game?
I love Matt Patricia for the Steelers DST. Nobody that I love. I mean, I'm starting Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris, but you know what? I love Pat Freiermuth. I hope what we saw last week sign things come. Tough matchup.
That's the thing. The Patriots are always so good against tight ends.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean, when you look at the tight ends this week, if you want to get creative and start Gerald Everett or Tyler Higbee over Freiermuth, I certainly understand. That's fine. But it's just – I think this is going to end up being a really go-to option for Trubisky. We may have – I don't want to say overlooked it because we all had Freiermuth ranked relatively as a starter, whether it was somewhere between 10 and 13, 14, 15. But – oh my gosh, look at George Pickens and Chase Claypool in the slot, and obviously Deontay. It might just be Deontay and Freiermuth, based on what we saw last week and how things go.
I think I love Deontay the most.
And Tennessee Buffalo. Do you like Devin Singletary this week?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Any bonus question? Any hesitation with Derrick Henry, who
No.
has not run very well against the Bills except for a 76-yard touchdown run. But he's had 4 games against the Bills, and he's rushed for 56, 78, 57, and 143 yards. And he basically had one huge run, and the Bills have done a great job against Derrick Henry.
He's got to score. He's got to score because he's not catching 4 or 5 passes in this game. He might get 2 or 3. But this game feels like it could get ugly. I think we were talking off the air about the spread for the Bills and being a 10-point favorite. The Titans are another team that makes me a little nervous. Not to the Cardinals level, but they may not be close to what they were a year ago.
And
losing Landry on defense, offensive line's a concern, the receiving core is a concern. It's not going to be easy for Derrick Henry in some of these tougher matchups.
This is kind of a similar one to the Colts and Jags too, right? Like the Titans have kind of whooped the Bills the last couple of times they've faced each other.
Yeah, they won 2 straight. And I think one of them was very close. Remember that game that it was like a Wednesday night game or something, or Tuesday night game? I think it was a very close game if I recall. But they've won 2 straight. They lost the 2 previous. They're 2-2 the last 4 meetings in recent years. Look, let's give the Titans a little bit of credit. They only lost by 1 of the Giants. It's a tough matchup. So let's see if they can get back on track. All right, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we'll get into Cincinnati at Dallas. We'll talk about these 8 games. Cincinnati, a 7-point favorite on the road. And here we'll take a break and get going right after this. And now here we go. Cincinnati. Here we go. For those of you who remember the old intro. Cincinnati at Dallas. Bengals -7. Over-under is 41.5. Joe Burrow. Remember I told you about the cover too. His intended air yards per pass attempt was 6.7. 6.7 yards per pass attempt. That's how far he was throwing the ball. In 2021, it was 8.1. So he definitely checked down a lot. Okay, Joe Burrow. You guys don't like him quite as much as Dave. You have him more as a low-end starter. Is that right, Heath?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that?
I mean, he was ranked as a low-end starter in draft season. I don't think this is a better spot for him than average.
Okay, all right. So you guys, Derek Carr or Joe Burrow this week?
Carr.
Burrow, but I like both.
Okay, Stafford over Burrow. Cousins or Burrow?
Cousins.
Burrow or Lance?
Burrow.
Burrow.
Burrow or Daniel Jones? Burrow. Okay. Start Joe Mixon. Start Jamar Chase. Let's talk about the Cincinnati wide receivers, Jamie, with and without T. Higgins.
T. Higgins is a must-start if he plays. I'm not going to get cute and bench him. As long as he clears the protocol and he's out there, just assume that he's going to be a number 2 receiver until proven otherwise. If he's out, Boyd is a borderline starter in 2 receiver leagues, definite starter in 3 receiver leagues. I think he'll benefit, honestly, maybe more than anybody, him and Hayden Hurst, from this, new defense that they're going to face because, checking the ball down, that's kind of where those guys are going to live, and it worked for them last week. Boyd scored a touchdown. This is now 4 straight regular season games where he scored, and I believe 2 of those were without Higgins last year. So, he's got plenty of potential, even as a 3rd receiver, with Higgins playing, but I don't know how many people are going to start him. So he was like 55% rostered. You should absolutely check your waiver wire. It's not looking as encouraging as it would be if Higgins was out or was trending out. And then Hayden Hurst, I think, is somebody you want to take a look at as a streaming tight end, a notch below the Everetts and the Higbees, but I think in the same sort of range, at least for me, Logan Thomas, Dawson Knox, those type of guys. But I think Hayden Hurst, showed enough last week with his targets that if they're going to throw that much, he's got a chance to be successful.
Yeah, Boyd, people didn't really go all in on him. He's only up 3% from 54% to 57%. And I think people probably just are leaning towards T. Higgins is going to play.
I think that's part of it. And part of it is like they threw 53 times last week and they ran 94 plays. Like assuming they're going to run 65 plays this week and throw 30 times. How many of those are going to Hurst and Boyd?
Yeah. But Boyd, now that's 3 games without Higgins over the last 2 seasons with a touchdown or 100 yards. So it's something to keep in mind. And the Cowboys were a good matchup last year. Did a decent job in week 1, but Tom Brady only threw 27 passes. And Hayden Hurst, not terrible. He's about 15th to 17th for you guys. I think Jamie has him 13th in PPR. Not much to say there about Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, that I will lower him if Higgins is active. I have him ranked as if Higgins is not playing right now.
Okay, sit Cooper Rush. He threw 13 passes last week, and Fehoko had 3 of the targets, and he led them all, but he spread the ball out very evenly. But shouldn't take too much from that because just look at what Joe Flacco did in one start last year and one start this year. It was completely different. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to say much. I was just going to say that Cooper Rush threw the ball downfield a lot last year. I alluded to that earlier. So Dallas running backs. Zeke is what, number 3 guy, Heath?
Yeah, mid-range flex option. Hopefully he gets, I mean, he didn't look bad at all in week 1. It's just how bad is this offensive line and how much do the Bengals stack the box with Cooper Rush playing quarterback? It could be pretty ugly. But he's in the flex range. I would start him over Breece Hall. I would start him over the Jags, but I would rather not start him.
You'd start him over James Robinson. Okay. He's got Cincinnati this week, the Giants, then Washington, then the Rams. I mean, when are you going to feel comfortable starting him?
Like against the Giants and against Washington.
So what is it about this matchup that is it the run defense? Is it the score? Potentially? What is it that you don't like about Zeke this week?
Those things, yes.
Okay.
What's different? You look at this Cowboys team compared to the Steelers team from last week. Kind of similarities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Steelers team from last year?
Last week.
Oh, last week.
In terms of Bengals, how they played the Steelers, I mean,
right.
Obviously quarterback concerns, offensive line concerns, and so it's, their defense played really well, and it's the score is not indicative of what the Bengals, did defensively. They only gave up, I think, 6 points, so they gave up the 1 touchdown to Najee Harris. So I think this defense is going to end up being a little bit underrated until we start to realize that they're better than they, probably deserve to be credited for. I don't know if that makes sense. But they're a better defense than we give them credit for. They've been one of my favorite DSTs to pick up this week. I just think you look at how this Cowboys offense operated last week, and granted they lose Dak and the Bucs are fantastic, but I think this Bengals defense is going to contain this Cowboys offense, given the quarterback, given the offensive line woes. And this, go back to 2019 when Dak broke his ankle. How bad was Zeke? No Tyron Smith that season either. So Zeke was bad. And he's 2 years older now.
And obviously going to sit Tony Pollard. By the way, the Bengals only scored 1 fantasy point last week. They only had 1 sack. But their run defense could be a sneaky one that we're not talking about because they weren't great against the run last year, but they had some moments last year where they held Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris again, Derrick Henry, and of course Cam Akers in the Super Bowl to 3.1 yards per carry or less. Last week, Najee Harris, 10 carries for 23 yards. So I've got my eye on the Bengals run defense as an underrated unit. See if they can end up being really good in a tough matchup. CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb or Allen Robinson?
Lamb for me.
Robinson for me.
CeeDee Lamb or Najee Harris?
Harris gets through a full week of practice. I'll take Harris.
Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb or Adam Thielen?
Lamb.
Really? Okay. And Dalton Schultz is a top 7 tight end. So over Freiermuth?
Yes.
For
me.
Okay. Cincinnati DST.
I asked Heath this question yesterday. If you're in a 10-team league right now and Jeff Wilson was on waivers, would you drop Tony Pollard for Jeff Wilson?
No, I would not. No, not in a 10-team league.
Is he, without an injury, ever going to be started? I'm with you. I just think it's interesting because, the appeal is not as it's not as appealing. He is not as appealing right now as he was preseason.
Of course not. No, none of them are. It sucks. Right. This was the highest scoring team in football last year. I don't know if they were the highest scoring offense because that factors in the pick sixes, so they probably weren't. But they were obviously a terrific fantasy team, and it just sucks right now. All right, Colts at Jacksonville. Colts are 4-point favorites. Over-unders 45.5. Stat of the game, number one. Look at the Jaguars against quarterbacks. If you're looking for Matt Ryan, looking to start Matt Ryan. Last year, the Jaguars, they had some good performances, including that game against the Bills, but Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, Tua, Geno Smith, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, all of them scored 25 or more fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. That's Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, Tua Tagovailoa, Geno Smith, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson. Last week, Carson Wentz scored 35 fantasy points against the Jaguars. Heath, how much do you like Matt Ryan? And then second question related is stat of the game number two. There were only 2 quarterbacks last week who had a higher off-target percentage than Trevor Lawrence, and they were Justin Fields and Trey Lance in the terrible conditions. So how much do you like Ryan, and do you like him better than Trevor Lawrence?
I do not want to start a quarterback in this game if I can avoid it. I don't know which one I have ranked higher right now because they're both outside my top 20 quarterbacks, I believe. I was not encouraged by the fact, like we heard the talk from Frank Reich about how they're going to be more pass heavy, and that's what teams do. And then the first 3 quarters of the game, he had 24 pass attempts. Matt Ryan did.
Can I just push back on that just a little bit? Because in the first half of the game, he had 19 pass attempts. The third quarter, they ran 10 plays, and he threw 5 times. So, yes, it looks much worse through the first 3 quarters, but he did have 19 pass attempts through the first half.
Wow,
So,
he Azer-statted that one.
There's lots of Azer-statting going on. I'm not sure which Azer-stat matters more. But like I did not see enough from Matt Ryan or from this offense to think that he's definitely good again or that he's definitely going to throw a lot when they are winning games.
Okay. Jamie, you're a little higher on Ryan. You have him 16th. Anyone you'd start him over this week, like Lance or Fields?
I would start him over Fields. I think the troubling thing for Matt Ryan, which is why I love Michael Pittman and why I still love Nyheim Hines, is their weapons are just not there. And, Alec Pierce is now in the concussion protocol. They were using both tight ends. Grayson was playing a little bit more in passing down situations, or was being used more in passing down situations than Mo Alley Cox. But I don't understand sort of what they're doing when you could take a flyer maybe on Will Fuller or take a flyer maybe on bringing back T.Y. Hilton. Like, is Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell going to get the job done for you the entire year? I don't think that's going to be the case. Now, again, for Michael Pittman, that's fantastic. You saw that in week 1. And, even though Nyheim Hines wasn't great, he still had 6 for 50 in the passing game. So those 2 guys, I think, are going to really benefit. And even Jonathan Taylor, I think, will start to catch more passes. So Ryan, just in terms of Ryan, though, I think he's not the worst fallback option if you lost Dak Prescott and he was available on waivers.
Yeah, I just wonder if Matt Ryan, if Alec Pierce hangs on to that ball, catches the touchdown,
right,
and Ryan scores 23 fantasy points last week, if people are more excited about him. And
he got 12 rushing yards. That's amazing.
Wow. I didn't even notice that. I don't know if you guys want to get into this. Mark H on YouTube right now asks, when do we start to worry about Trevor Lawrence? I just do think it's worth noting.
It's not Ty Law.
About Ty Law? Yeah, he wrote T Law. Yeah, Ty Law. Yeah, is he a Hall of Famer? Ty Law?
I believe he is.
Terrific player. Trevor Lawrence, it's worth noting, like, he missed throws in the preseason. He missed easy throws last week. Like I said, 3rd highest off-target percentage in football last week. So I'm, on one hand, Heath, I'm encouraged because they seem to be pretty aggressive. And if he can play well, I feel like Lawrence could have a good season. On the other hand, he needs to start playing well.
Like, what do you mean about when do we start to worry about him? As a fantasy football manager, you should never have been drafting him as anything more than a number 2 quarterback. And I wouldn't.
Well, a lot of people play Superflex.
Yeah, he's my super flex.
Yeah, as a super flex quarterback, I think he's probably going to be a number 2 quarterback. I don't know that he's going to be a particularly good one, but I'm not worried about him falling outside of the top 24 this season. As a Jacksonville fan, we're rapidly approaching the point where I would start worrying about him.
All right, let's go through the rest of this game real quick here. Start Taylor. What about Nyheim Hines, Jamie? Starter said he had 6 catches last week.
I mean, until he does something terrible, these are the type of stat lines you should expect. 3 to 5 carries. You'll have to see him do more than just 4 rushing yards. But as long as Taylor's healthy and this receiving core is what it is, he's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 catches on a week-to-week basis. They just don't have many other choices. And so if they're winning easily, are you going to see him do that consistently? No, probably not. But I think, from what Heath has been talking about, with Frank Reich's comments about throwing the ball more, a lot of that stemmed off questions about Nyheim Hines. So it's I've said this going into the season. He's going to be their number 2 receiver. That played itself out in week 1. I think it'll be the case more times than not. So he's a flex. I drafted a lot of Nyheim Hines, and the teams where I went hero RB, he is starting for me as my second running back. Like, I'm starting him over Breece Hall. I'm starting him over in PPR over David Montgomery. I just think that there's a 4 to 6 catch window that helps him. I don't know if I have him Montgomery. Let me rephrase that. I'll take that one back. But they're close. They're very close. I'm starting over both Patriots running backs.
What about the Jaguars running backs?
No, I still start the Jaguars guys over him. But you see, we're all kind of in a similar range.
I love that Dave's the high guy on Nyheim Hines.
He hated Nyheim Hines this season.
But, no, I would start him over the Jags guys. And I wish that I could communicate this in a better way, but 11.4 PPR fantasy points is without a touchdown is a pretty decent day.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do that every week and you're going to score 5 or 6 touchdowns a year, 6 or 7 touchdowns a year, then you're going to be a good flex.
They did run 90 plays and they played a full overtime.
Right.
So how do you factor that in? It might be 8.5 PPR fantasy points.
It could be next week.
Yeah.
Well, hold on though. Do quarter by quarter breakdown of Nyheim Hines. I'm curious.
How many did he have in the first half?
I don't know. It's actually
do the math though, because I'm not very smart. What's 18 times 5?
90.
There you go. It's on pace for 90 catches.
There you go.
They play 18. No, they don't play 18.
No, Jamie, no. He only plays 17 games.
Why do I keep doing that?
Okay, I want to finish up. Start Michael Pittman. He's a slam dunk. Christian Kirk. Is Christian Kirk a slam dunk at this point?
I don't think he's a slam dunk in non-PPR, and I don't think he's necessarily a slam dunk in 2 receiver leagues because Kenny Moore is a great slot corner, and that's probably who he's going to see a lot of. So I initially, when I did my first run of rankings, he was like top 15, but I pulled back a little bit. Like he's still a low end starter in 2 receiver leagues in PPR, but I don't think it's a slam dunk in non PPR because I think you could get like a 4 or 5 for 80, which in PPR, as Heath alluded to, is not bad, but not necessarily. I think non PPR are going to be a little frustrated with that.
He's my favorite Jag in full PPR for sure.
I agree.
Non PPR, I would start Robinson over him.
Any interest in Zay Jones? 9 targets last week.
He's worth adding.
Okay. Yeah, it's week 2, no buys, but yeah, all right. And the Colts start Sid Evan Ingram, right?
Yes, but his route participation was good, so I'm not necessarily wanting to drop him if I drafted 2 tight ends and he's my second.
Okay. Colts
and for what it's worth, they did give up 2 touchdowns at tight end last week.
Sure did. O.J. Howard. Colts DSC is top 10. Arizona's at Las Vegas. The Raiders are 5.5 point favorites. The total is 51.5. Stat of the game: the Cardinals picked up where they left off in 2021. They allowed 26 or more fantasy points to quarterbacks in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. That's a pretty good game. 5 of their last 6 games, 21 or more in 6 straight games to end the season. That included Goff, Wentz, and Russell Wilson. Patrick Mahomes, of course, scored 44 fantasy points. So this looks like a great matchup for Derek Carr. And I think he said he was a little amped up last week. The turnovers were uncharacteristic. Okay, so are we starting? I have Carr and Rodgers in the podcast league, Jamie. I'm 0-1. I need a win. Who should I start?
Carr.
I agree. Heath, what do you think about Carr this week?
I would start him over Aaron Rodgers, but they're within a half a fantasy point, so it's not a strong feeling. But he's a top 10 quarterback for me. I think this is, like we talked about earlier, this is one of the best matchups.
Any hesitation on Kyler Murray this week?
No.
Heath has him 5th. Jamie a little low on Kyler at 9.
I mean, no hesitation if I drafted him as my starter. I'm not benching him for anybody that's out there. Carson Wentz probably being the most likely. But like I said, I like Stafford better this week. I'm not know anybody else that.
That's all right. You know what? Shouldn't have even asked. Start Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Start James Conner and Josh Jacobs against this Cardinals run defense, which wasn't really tested in week 1, but is probably not very good. So do you like Josh Jacobs or Christian Kirk? Let's say half PPR.
Jacobs. Full PPR, I take her.
I'll agree with that.
How do you feel about Marquise Brown? Garbage. First of all, I just want to say Kyler Murray in the first 3 quarters last week threw for 137 yards and no touchdowns. In the fourth quarter, he threw for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. So let's get a little bit better performance from this offense. Marquise Brown, I guess I'll just keep going back to Christian Kirk. Marquise Brown or Christian Kirk?
I'll take Brown.
I'll take Kirk and full PPR, Brown and everything else.
Would you rather roster Zay Jones for the Jaguars or Greg Dortch for the Cardinals?
Jones, because Rondale Moore could return at any point, and then DeAndre Hopkins is back in week 7.
If I need a desperation start this week, I'd rather start Dortch than Jones.
Okay.
Assuming Rondale Moore's out.
Yeah, right. How do you feel about Zach Ertz, who had 2 catches, 14 yards, and a touchdown in week 1? The Raiders were a great matchup last year. 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends, and in week 1, they gave up 54 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets to Gerald Everett. How do you feel about Zach Ertz? Heath?
He's a low-end starter. I would prefer Gerald Everett over him, but that's the only guy who was drafted after him who I would start over him.
I would still start Ertz over all the streamers this week.
Cole Kmet or Ertz?
Assuming he practices, because he did not practice on Wednesday.
Ertz over Kmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if a guy was kind of hurt in week 1, and I'm not surprised that he didn't practice on Wednesday, especially a veteran guy. Kmet, by the way, 71% rostered. I don't remember what it was, but I've seen him dropped in 2 of my leagues. So Cole Kmet, yeah, he's down from 84% to 71%. Might be a little premature. All right. Derek Carr, top 12. We like him this week. Josh Jacobs, we like him. Devontae Adams, we like him, although we'll see if the Cardinals can do their magic against number 1 wide receivers like they did all of last year. Hunter Renfrow, starter, sit, or drop?
Sit. Don't drop him yet.
No.
Okay. Who would you start over Hunter Renfrow? Josh Palmer?
Drake London.
Drake London.
Josh Palmer, Drake London, 2 very good ones.
Claypool.
Ooh.
I would start Zay Jones over him, too.
Ooh. All right. And start Darren Waller. Sit the DS.
Tyler Boyd if Higgins is out.
Miami at Baltimore. The game of the week, says I. Last year, the Dolphins won 22-10.
Is this your new version of the Bonanza?
Yeah. That's funny. Let's see if this game totally sucks. I'm really interested in the Dolphins. I wonder if the Dolphins are better than every NFC team. I was just thinking about how much better the AFC is than the NFC.
Every NFC team?
Who's the best NFC team, and where would they rank in the AFC?
I think I could name 10 NFC teams that are better than the Dolphins.
I think you might be sleeping on the Dolphins. That's what I want to find out. I want to see how they do against this Ravens team. Because is
this Ravens team as great as you're giving them credit for?
Well, they're a legit playoff team. I mean, they're a contender. Sure. They were in first place before Lamar Jackson got hurt last year, and that was with a completely banged up secondary. They've already lost 1 member of their secondary for the year, but their defense should be much better. And now they get Dobbins back. So I think so. I'm fine with that take.
No, I don't think it's a bad take. I just don't know if the Ravens are like this mountain that the Dolphins have to climb to be considered.
No, but if they can't compete with the Ravens, then I'm going to be a little disappointed. So who's the best team? Real quick, who's the best team in the NFC, and where would they rank in the AFC?
After week 1? Well, Eagles or Rams? Eagles, Vikings?
Let's just say Rams, right? They deserve it.
I don't want to take away from the Bucs too. Their defense was awesome.
Yeah, it could,
Bucs. There's 4 teams that are definitely better than the Dolphins.
Giants or Dolphins?
I would say, probably the Giants. All right. Anyway, looks like we're sitting to how do we feel about? I asked you this earlier. Let's do it again. How do we feel about the running backs in this game? Chase Edmonds. I don't think anyone's going to have confidence in starting Raheem Mostert. And yes, the Ravens allowed the 8th most receiving yards per game to running backs last year. They got torched by torches relative, but in terms of just
13 catches is a lot.
Yeah, it's not like they were like all over the. It's not like they had a
Dolphins did score 1 offensive touchdown last week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But their defense is really good. Like their defense is.
They played the Patriots though, dude. Come on.
They have 2 great cornerbacks, and they have Javon Holland at safety.
They have 2.
Well, they have 2 very good, maybe 1 great. Byron. Oh, the Byron Jones is out, but they will have Byron Jones at some point. Don't love the linebackers, but they could have a great defense. They really could. You're sleeping on the Dolphins.
I don't disagree with that take that the Dolphins have a potentially very good defense. But again, I'm not judging what they did in week 1 against that offense as the barometer.
I'm not either. I'm just
I also don't think like if they lose 20-17 to the Ravens, that doesn't mean that they're not a potential playoff.
No, of course not. Like I said, I just want to see if I hope they can hang with. You know what? This is the game of the week. I don't care what you. This is the game.
They're 3.5 point underdogs. So
game of the week.
Yeah.
There's 2 true Super Bowl contenders. All right, Chase Edmonds, J.K. Dobbins. How do you like them?
Great poll.
Are the Dolphins better than every NFC team? Yes or no chance? No chance has 78% of the vote. Okay, thank you, Schaefer, for embarrassing me. Dolphins running backs here, guys. Running backs.
Edmonds is a borderline flex in PPR. Somebody I would probably bench in non-PPR. Borderline starter in PPR. He should be a flex PPR. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Chase Wilson or Chase Edmonds?
I would go Edmonds in non. I'm sorry. I would go Wilson in non-PPR. I'd go Edmonds in half and full.
Yep.
Okay. How about Dobbins or those guys?
No.
Can't trust Dobbins yet unless he's full all week and we just get some report that he looks amazing.
Not against this defense, am I right? So Jalen Waddle only had 5 targets last week. He had a 42-yard touchdown catch and run. Is he in your top 20 this week, Jalen Waddle?
He's right there.
Okay. Would you start him
you
over?
Didn't draft Jalen Waddle in the 3rd or 4th round to bench him. Like this.
Start him over CeeDee Lamb?
Yes.
I would not.
Oh wow! So
I would start him over DK and Juju and those. I'm just higher on Lamb.
Okay. But obviously you start Waddle over Bateman, right?
Yes.
Yes. Bateman is to me is good. I hope it's not fool's gold because last week was frustrating. He doesn't catch the touchdown, you're in trouble.
Bateman or Dobbins?
Bateman.
Dobbins and non-PPR.
Just to get this out of the way, if Dobbins doesn't play, Kenyon Drake would be pretty low end for you guys, right?
Against that defense.
Non-existent. It's a revenge game, though.
Oh, that's
but
right.
Drake has like 5 revenge game options.
Lamar Jackson is a start, and Mark Andrews is a start. Let me just do a few more Batemans. I know we're going to get a lot of Bateman questions.
If this game was in Miami, they should build a statue for Drake for just the Patriots, the victory against the Patriots.
Oh, right. Yes.
What'd they call that play again?
The Miracle in Miami? I don't know any idea.
Probably.
That is probably what it was called. Okay. How about
Brown's fourth play as a Patriot?
Would you start like Jahan Dotson over Rashad Bateman or any of the waiver wire wide receivers?
I would.
You start Dotson?
I would start Dotson over him. I would start Landry over him.
And obviously you'd start Tyler Boyd if Higgins were out, right?
I would start Boyd if Higgins were out. I'd start Palmer tonight.
Palmer is the one. No, I've got Bateman one spot ahead of Palmer. So no.
Really? Wow.
All righty. And which DST do you prefer in this game?
Good question.
Right now, the Dolphins. But if the Dolphins don't have Armstead and Little, then I would go Ravens.
Okay. Jets at Cleveland. Game of the week. No, sorry. That's Dolphins-Ravens. Jets at Cleveland. Stat of the game.
I mean, you like field goals. You were a backup goalie.
I did pick up Cade York, and I was a backup goalie. That's right. Cleveland was great against pass-catching running backs in 2021. They held Clyde, Montgomery, Dalvin Cook, Chase Edmonds, Najee Harris twice, DeAndre Swift, and Aaron Jones to fewer than 30 yards. I just don't really even know what to make of the Jets' receiving totals last week on 59 pass attempts. And I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, Heath, I am not thrilled to start Michael Carter, even coming off a great game last week. How do you feel about Michael Carter?
Borderline number 2 in full PPR. But I don't feel great about it. I don't have a good understanding of how many passes they're going to throw this week. But the thing that we know is that when Zach Wilson didn't play, they just slung the ball all over the yard last year as well. So I think they might throw 40 passes. And it's Joe Flacco, so a fourth of them are probably going to Michael Carter and Breece Hall. So yeah, he's like, we've all got him in the same range. He's that start him in PPR if you don't have a better option. I'd start him over Zeke. I'd start him over David Montgomery this week. I would start him over Jeff Wilson, Rashad Penny.
Is Carter over Wilson only in full PPR?
It is. All of those were only in full PPR.
Okay. Half PPR, would you start Carter or Zeke?
Carter. I have no faith in Zeke, so yeah, I'd take my chances with his role in the passing game. Carter's role in the passing game.
And Dave mentioned that a lot of the pass attempts to the running backs look like design plays. And I noticed that too. I couldn't put a number on it, but they were intentional about it. It wasn't just checkdowns.
It does not make me feel very good about the Jets' future. If they've got Elijah Moore and they've got Garrett Wilson and their offensive plan is for Corey Davis to lead the team in targets and along with the running backs.
He barely led the team in targets. I mean, it was 7, 8, 9 targets for Moore, Wilson,
and then 10 for Hall
Davis.
And 9 for Carter.
Yeah. Look, they got to get the ball in everybody's hands.
Conklin, had 6?
That's one way. Barrios had 6. So, do you like Kareem Hunt?
Like if they throw 30 pass attempts, we're talking about
trade Corey Davis
5.
to the Colts for a pick. There's your solution.
Yeah. Do you like Kareem Hunt better than Michael Carter? I forgot the answer from 40
Yes.
ago.
I do not.
What?
Jamie does. Oh, why not, Heath?
I'm just not as high on Kareem Hunt.
You're a scorned Chiefs fan.
I'm a scorned Chiefs
fan.
He didn't leave the Chiefs. They cut him.
We were Kareem Hunt guys together, Heath.
We were. This is maybe I'm just a Michael Carter guy.
Maybe.
I'm not.
Amari Cooper or Jahan Dotson?
I don't even know how I have it ranked, but I'm saying Jahan Dotson. If I have Dotson behind Cooper, then I will move one of them.
This actually, we'll see how it plays out, but the Jets might not be such a great matchup for wide receivers like Amari Cooper. They might have a good secondary, a decent secondary.
Might be talking on Monday or Sunday night about why in the world didn't we pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Yeah, we should talk about that. He had a really nice game last week. And who's your favorite wide receiver in this game?
Elijah Moore.
Yeah, but none of them are in my top 35.
Moore is there for Jamie. It's 29th. Right around there. A lot of times I do the rankings the day before, the night before, and they change a little bit, but not too much. So Elijah Moore, you don't have to completely get away from him. But this is a tough defense, tough matchup. They're going to be all over Joe Flacco. And that's pretty much it, right? We'll do a few more Kareem Hunts. Kareem Hunt or Jerry Jeudy?
I'll take Kareem Hunt.
I will take Jeudy. I would just want to say some guys I would start Kareem Hunt over, so I'm not an anti-Kareem Hunt guy because I don't want to be an anti-Kareem Hunt guy. I would start him over
30th.
Breece Hall, both of the Jets or both of the Jags. Nyheim Hines.
So you like Zeke better than Hunt?
I currently have Zeke ahead of Hunt. Yes.
You like David Montgomery better than Kareem Hunt?
I do.
Wow.
So what about Rashad Penny with Ken Walker going to play this week? Would you start Kareem Hunt, Michael Carter, or Rashad Penny?
I don't think Ken Walker's going to have a big role in his first game back from a hernia when Rashad Penny's there.
Yeah. All right. You ever heard the song Living with a Hernia? Living with a hernia. No? Weird Al? If you want to learn more about hernias. Houston's at Denver. Oh, Cleveland DSD is top 3. Start them and sit in a Joku. Houston's at Denver. Denver is a 10-point favorite. Nathaniel Hackett. And which running back for the Texans do you like better, Jamie?
Burkhead in PPR. I'll still go back to Pearson non-PPR. Neither one the must-start guy.
How about Pierce or Kareem Hunt? Or Burkhead or Kareem Hunt?
I mean, I'm sure he has both guys over Kareem
Hunt, Burkhead, Pierce.
Oh, okay.
Like, I just want to say, like, where I'm ranking Kareem Hunt is pretty much where we all drafted Kareem Hunt. I just didn't move him up into the top 20
Again,
after one good game.
What does the draft have to do with anything? We've got
Because we've let 1 week change a RB30 into a top 15 running back.
Well, I mean,
in a similar role we expected, he scored 2 touchdowns.
And he got 15 total touches. That's more than Rashad Penny got. That's more than David Montgomery got. That's more than
I understand. Where's Donovan Peoples in your wide receiver rankings? Why don't you move him up into the top 15?
Well, because I didn't have any expectations for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I had expectations for Kareem Hunt.
Well, first of all, he's not in the top 15. I don't think, anyway.
He was 16th and 20th, I think. So I
17th for Jamie in PPR. Yeah, 20th. Okay, so I was looking at non-PPR.
And the season-long rankings don't necessarily reflect the week-to-week rankings. He's playing the Jets.
They don't.
I mean,
they move a little bit, but it's
they
not
move
as
a
if
lot
I'm
depending on who they're
Kareem
playing.
Hunt.
I mean, the Jets stink.
The Jets feel like they have a decent.
If you're
defense.
ranking week to week based on the season, my gosh, man, come on.
That is where rankings start from, yes.
For the season?
Yes. And then we move them. We talked last week about guys we had ranked
you factor
differently.
18 weeks on a week-to-week basis?
We talked last week about guys we had ranked differently week 1 from the full season. Those are the guys that were the exceptions. The rest of the guys were ranked similarly to how we had them ranked. That's why we had the discussion.
I would like for you guys to have a civil conversation about this because I think it's very interesting.
We're not having a civil conversation?
I can't tell, honestly. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting discussion here about the different ways that you guys go about your rankings. Because Heath, you're less. This has always been the case. I think Heath, at the beginning of the season, is less likely to move off his season-long rankings than Jamie. Is that fair? Based on
I think week to week, mine probably changed less, and there are exceptions.
Okay. All right. All right. I guess the conversation's over. So, Brandon Cooks, you guys have in the top 15 or top 17 or something like that. I guess no hesitation there. And that's pretty much it. Oh, OJ Howard. Anyone starting OJ Howard?
No.
Okay. Russell Wilson. Big game this week?
Yes. I mean, he had 340 passing yards and 1 touchdown. If Alberto falls in the end zone, if they don't call, runs at the goal line and he gets another touchdown there, it's like you said about Matt Ryan. Nobody is concerned about Russell.
They moved the ball so well last week. They just stunk near the goal line. All right, so then what do we do with Melvin Gordon? I know everyone's going to start Javonte Williams, even though he only had 7 carries last week, which is weird. But, Jamie, what do you think about Melvin Gordon? We've talked about a lot of running backs that are – I feel like every running back we've talked about, we don't want to start. Jaguars guys, Jets guys, Zeke. Like, who do we want to start? You want to start Melvin Gordon over any of them?
No, but I do think that, when you look at it, again, if he gets the touchdown instead of the fumble, and now you're looking at them as a 10-point favorite at home, he's probably going to get 12 carries again, I would assume, in that range, if they did that in a game that was back and forth. So I don't think Gordon's a horrible flex.
No, I would start him over both the Jags.
Kareem Hunt?
I would start him over Kareem Hunt, yes.
I wonder why you guys are so low on James Robinson, though. Especially you, Heath, because you're lower on ETN, I think.
Because it's a bad offense, I think. They're underdogs against a good defense, and it's an uncertain touch distribution between the running backs, but it's going to be a split.
Yeah.
One of the closest committees I would expect this week.
I think I like their offense better than you do. In fact, I know I do. I'm not going to call them a good offense yet, but I see a lot of potential there. Just need Lawrence to play a little better. All right, back to this game. Sorry. Sutton and Judy, I feel like, are going to be both started in at least 80%, maybe 90% of leagues. How confident are you in Sutton and Judy, Jamie?
Must start guys. I think the fact that they only got 7 targets is a little frustrating, but I still think you're talking about Russ at home in a game that they just lost. They're not going to check down as much as they did last week. So I'm perfectly fine with both those guys.
Alberto Okwuegbunam. He's a borderline start here.
Yeah.
So we're not going to start him over Zach Ertz. Would you start Alberto over Cole Kmet?
Yeah.
Yes.
You drop Cole Kmet for Alberto.
If I'm 0-1, I would probably consider it.
I probably wouldn't, but I would start Alberto over him, so I understand if you want to.
Because, as we said earlier, Jamie, if you go 0-2, you are done.
True.
Alberto, so we like Gerald Everett better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alberto or Logan Thomas?
Alberto.
Alberto or Tyler Higbee?
Higbee.
All right. Denver DST is top 4. Start them. New England at Pittsburgh. I'm sure everyone's going to start Najee Harris if he plays. I don't know. I think we should wait another day, too, for a practice report before we discuss this, but you're going to start Najee Harris. Deontay Johnson. Where do you have Deontay Johnson ranked this week, Heath?
Top 20 wide receiver. I'm more confident I'm going to start Deontay Johnson than I am that I'm going to start Najee Harris.
Yeah, I think people will be, the general public will just start Najee Harris. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah. Anyone else? There's no Ty Montgomery. So what does that mean for the Patriots running backs?
I want to see what they do first before I say I'm starting either one. I mean, Harris was involved in the passing game last week, which was encouraging. 2 catches for 10 yards. Stevenson didn't exactly, separate himself from Harris. So I'll still give Stevenson a slight nod in PPR just because I think that he's going to get that role sooner than Harris gets that role. But, if you think the Patriots are going to win this game, you should like Najee. You should like Damian Harris a little bit. But if you think that they're going to be in a back and forth type of game where they struggle, it's probably going to be tougher.
Yeah, Harris high-end flex, Stevenson low-end flex for me.
Yeah, Patriots are favorites on the road. 2.5 points, 2.5 points, depending where you're looking.
And that's going up.
And yeah, I took the Steelers. I just don't believe in the Patriots, which is a weird thing to say. But no, TJ Watt is a huge deal. I mentioned it twice now. I'll mention it again. Last year, they gave up a full yard per play more when TJ Watt was not on the field compared to when he was on the field. And that is staggering.
I just think you have to throw out what the Patriots did offensively in week 1. They were facing the Dolphins defense.
You can't move the ball against the Dolphins defense. I agree. The Steelers last year had a dreadful run defense. Terrible. Last week, they were great against Joe Mixon. They gave up a 31-yard run, and other than that, he had 26 carries for 51 yards. And even with the 31-yard run, they did a really good job against Mixon. So we'll keep an eye on that, but this was a great matchup for running backs last year. Can't imagine you're trusting any Patriots wide receivers. And Pickens and Claypool. Heath, you said something earlier about starting Claypool. What was the context there? Do you like him this week, or is he just kind of desperation?
I was starting him over someone I didn't like, I believe. We were talking about people we would start over someone we don't like. So, yeah, he's a number 3-ish wide receiver.
Okay. And so Pickens, by the way, has been dropped. He went from, I think, 84% to 76%. So it's coming from the guy who dropped Justin Jefferson for, what was his name? Who was the running back?
Oh, Peyton Barber. We're not going to let you forget that one.
I'd always forget. For the guy who dropped Justin Jefferson after week 2 for Peyton Barber 2 years ago, just be patient with rookie wide receivers if you can. And Freiermuth is a start. He's a top 12 tight end. He's 7th for Jamie. I think he's 9th for Heath in PPR, 11th in non-PPR. So we're going back to him, 10 targets, 5 catches for 75 yards. But the problem is there were only 2 tight ends all year that scored double-digit PPR fantasy points against the Patriots. Dalton Schultz had 12.9. Austin Hooper had 12.5. That's incredible. They did not face good tight ends last year. I will say that. The best one was Schultz, and he had 5 for 79. Actually, they faced Pitts, and he had 3 catches for 29 yards. But this is year after year, guys. This is a tough matchup for tight ends. So I don't know if there's that much more to say, but Jamie, how do you balance that, the matchup versus what we saw last week out of Freiermuth?
The talent pool at tight end right now was obviously a little bit tough to trust. And so, with Kmet struggling, with Njoku struggling, with Knox struggling, I think if you drafted Freiermuth, you're starting him, and hopefully you get that type of target share like we saw from last week. It's not like Trubisky was throwing the ball over. They have 38 attempts, but I don't know if that's going to be the norm. But I think, as you start to look at the pecking order here, he might be 2 behind Deontay Johnson, especially if Najee's not as involved in the passing game.
One of the things that factors pretty heavily into my week-to-week projections is Vegas totals. And last week, the Bears and 49ers had the lowest total at 40.5, and then the weather on Sunday morning drove it all the way down to 38.5. This game is the lowest of the week right now at 40, which is just like, for example, the Chiefs and Chargers over-under tonight is 54. 40 is exceptionally low. I think there's only one other game close, and that's San Francisco and Seattle at 41. For the most part, Cincinnati and Dallas at 41.5 as well. So for the most part, if you have borderline guys in games with that low of a total, I'm probably trying to stay away from them.
And Just conceptually, if you said to me, hey, do you think there'll be 14 more points in the Chiefs-Chargers game than the Patriots-Steelers game? I would say yes.
Lots more.
It's a lot of points, but I would say yes. Okay, which DST do you like better?
Steelers.
Steelers 27 points last week, 4 interceptions, 7 sacks, a touchdown, a fumble recovery. Okay, what? Tennessee's are you starting the Patriots DST?
Yeah.
They're not a bad streamer.
Pats or Panthers?
Patriots.
Okay. Tennessee at Buffalo. And
the Giants.
The Bills became the first team to not punt in 3 of their last 4 regular season games since punts were tracked beginning in 1939, according to BuffaloBills.com. That is amazing. 3 of their last 4 games, regular season games, they haven't punted. All right, Heath, let's lay this game out nice and easy here. Go ahead.
Start Derrick Henry. Start Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. I think I'm done.
That's why we saved this game for last. Any interest in Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, or Kyle Phillips?
I would be interested in, I am interested in deep PPR leagues rostering Kyle Phillips.
Okay, but you're also interested in rostering Treylon Burks and Robert Woods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Singletary is a flex-ish.
Flex-ish. Singletary or Jaguars or Jets?
Singletary behind all but Breece Hall.
I think I've got Singletary behind all but Travis Etienne. And full PPR. And non-PPR, he's ahead of most of them.
Okay. Yeah, you got to wait and see. But after last week, can they just give Devin Singletary the work he deserves? What does he have to do to prove it? I don't get it.
There's obviously something he's not doing.
I know, but it's so weird because on paper he's been a very good running back, and last year when they gave him the keys to the car, yes, 100%. He has not deserved it to be the pass catching guy, but he shouldn't be getting 8 carries to 6 for Zach Moss, in my opinion.
But on passing downs, it's even not. First off, every down for the Bills is a passing down.
True.
On passing situations, the fact that Zach Moss had 6 catches and Singletary had what, 1, 2?
But I think Singletary ran more routes than him.
Okay, but if you're Josh Allen, and there's Zach Moss on a route, and he's throwing to him, and there's Devin Singletary on a route, and he's not. I mean, that's.
I'm just not willing to say after one game that's.
Oh no, I agree with you, but
it's worth watching.
You noted this when we had all the James Cook conversations this offseason. How many routes that Devin Singletary ran? How many running back routes that the Bills ran last offseason? And how many for last season? And how many times they did not throw the ball at Devin Singletary? There's clearly something that Josh Allen's like, nope, he's going to tuck it and run, or he's going to look someplace else.
I think the Bills have a pretty advanced analytics department, and when you look at the analytics, Devin Singletary has been one of the worst pass-catching running backs when they've thrown to him in the NFL.
Sure. You know what? I'm not going to make the case for that. I'm just going to say the running downs, let's just make him the primary running back. I hope it happens.
That job's taken by Josh Allen.
But even in that regard, though, it's like when they get down near the goal line, they have 2 guys that they seem to trust more than him, the quarterback and Zach Moss.
I know. The Zach Moss thing I just don't really get. But you know what? Doesn't matter because we're not starting him anyway. Gabriel Davis is a top 18 wide receiver in non-PPR, top 25 in full PPR. Will be hard to get away from him. I know that he crushed Allen Robinson last week, but who are you going to start this week, Gabe Davis or Allen Robinson?
Davis.
Definitely Davis in non and half PPR. Full PPR, I might have Robinson 1 spot higher, but I'd probably just Davis.
If T. Higgins is out, would you start Gabe Davis or Tyler Boyd?
Davis.
I would start Davis over T. Higgins.
Okay. And that is it for the show. Oh, no, Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox or Alberto?
Dawson not right now?
I think when you said, oh, no, Dawson Knox, you said it perfectly.
Dawson Knox or Cole Kmet?
Kmet.
Knox in non-PPR, Kmet in PPR.
Yeah. I'm just going to say one thing about Dawson Knox. If there's a player where what happened the previous week doesn't matter, right? It's Dawson Knox. There's going to be some horrible weeks, and there's going to be 30 yards and 2 touchdown weeks. He's going to be annoying to own the roster. Sorry. All right, let's have some fun on Thursday night. We'll see you at 2 p.m. Eastern for the live stream, and enjoy the game tonight. Chargers and Chiefs should be a fun fantasy affair. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.